G'day, it's Greg Newson from the Vitality and Wellness Centre, and welcome to the latest podcast where today we're going to discuss the digestive system, basically how it works. People know that food goes in one end and out the other, but there's a lot that happens in between. So we're going to discuss how this amazing system turns our food and what we eat into abundant energy and vitality. And today's podcast is brought to you by Naturopath, supplements with absolute purity. No added chemicals or excipients to bind tablet ingredients together, make manufacturing cheaper, fill empty spaces in capsules, or increase the volume in powders. All their herbal blends are alcohol-free, and all supplements contain no synthetic or semi-synthetic flavours, colourings or sweeteners, just pure active ingredients. So you can be confident and comfortable in knowing that your supplements are as close to nature as possible. Check them out today. So how does the digestive system work? Well, it starts in the mouth, and it starts when we actually start chewing our food. So those little pearly white things that give us that beautiful smile, they actually have another very important role, and that is to break down or start the process of breaking down our food, which is very important because if we don't start that process of breaking the food down in our mouth, it goes into the stomach as one big solid piece of food. Just imagine just having an apple, just trying to swallow firstly an apple down the esophagus and getting into the stomach. It's going to be very hard to break down, and it's going to sit there and cause a lot of discomfort. So that is one of the primary roles of the teeth when it comes to digestion. The teeth, or the action of chewing, also tells the salivary glands that are located in the mouth and under the tongue to start secreting saliva. Now, the role of the saliva is actually threefold. Firstly, it lubricates, so it coats the food and it makes it slide down through the esophagus to the stomach with ease, so it doesn't get stuck. If it gets stuck, it can be quite painful. It also contains an enzyme called amylase. Now, amylase is a digestive enzyme that starts the process of breaking down carbohydrates in the mouth and then into the stomach. The third function of saliva is to tell the stomach and the pancreas that, hey, food's on the way, and so the stomach gets this message and it starts to produce the digestive juices or the gastric juices, and the pancreas does that also. Now, the role of the stomach, so we've eaten it, we've chewed it up, it slides down, there's a bit of amylase breaking down the carbohydrates. Now, what carbohydrates are is any breads, sugars, any flour product, any sugar product, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, those type of things. So that process has started breaking down in the mouth. Once it goes into the stomach has already produced a whole heap of digestive enzymes, and there's three. There's pepsinogen, which breaks down it doesn't break down carbohydrates, it breaks down protein, and gastric lipase that breaks down fat, and hydrochloric acid that breaks down the bonds that join the food together. So with the amylase, that whole digestive system is starting to kick in. Now, that process generally takes about 2 hours, and it's quite an acid environment. Once it's passed through the stomach, it will then go into the small intestine. Now, if acid went straight into that small intestine, which it does, but there was nothing to protect the small intestine, the acid itself would burn the stomach, and that would then cause duodenal ulcers. Now, to combat that and prevent that from happening, the pancreas produces a fluid that it secretes into the small intestines, the upper part of the small intestines, called bicarbonate. Now, bicarbonate is very alkaline, where the stomach acid, the hydrochloric acid, which is similar to if anyone has a pool, concrete pool, that's the same acid. It's a pH of around 1.5, so that's quite acidic, which can burn. So then the combination of the bicarbonate and the hydrochloric acid neutralise each other out, and it becomes basically almost pH neutral. So in that fluid, so that's one role of the pancreas, to protect the upper part of the small intestines. In that fluid, there is digestive enzymes, pancreatic enzymes. There is protease, which breaks down protein in the small intestines. There's lipase that breaks down fats in the small intestines, and more amylase is produced to help continue breaking down the carbohydrates in the small intestines. The other role of the pancreas that people may know is that it regulates blood sugar levels. So when we have sugar foods absorbed into the bloodstream, our blood sugar levels go up. Well, the pancreas then goes, oh, this is no good. This can cause blindness. It's the number one food that cancer eats, which is sugar. It can cause gangrene. It can cause kidney failure. We will secrete some insulin to grab hold of that glucose molecule and take it to a cell where it is needed and used as energy. If not, if there's too much glucose in the blood, the body goes, well, all the cells are full. We better convert it to another substance, and it converts it to fat, which is why people tend to eat a lot of carbohydrates and put on a little bit of weight. So let's look at that process of coming into the stomach, well, from the teeth, chewing of the food, coming into the stomach, and the digestive enzymes that are produced by the pancreas. An analogy I like to use so people have a bit more of an understanding of how important this process is. Think of an old building that needs to be wrecked. And it's an old building, it's a big just solid wall of a building, and you've got a crane with a big wrecking ball on it. And that wrecking ball comes along to that crane and it hits the side of the wall and it breaks it down to big chunks of brick. Well, that's what chewing of the food and the stomach acid do. So then those big chunks of brick go into the small intestines. Once they're in the small intestines, all those digestive enzymes that are produced by the pancreas start to break down that chunks of brick to grains of sand. Now, once those grains of sand are broken down, they are then absorbed through what we call the villi, little finger-like projections that float back and forward in the intestinal fluid, and nutrients that are broken down properly are absorbed through those little portals on the villi and then go into the bloodstream, which the liver converts into their active form so they can be utilised properly throughout the body. So if this process of not being able to break the food down properly, we're not chewing our food effectively, or we don't have enough stomach acid production or enough digestive enzyme production, all of that will impact every single other digestive organ, and they won't be able to assimilate nutrients out of the food effectively because it's not broken down properly. It's big chunks of brick when it should be grains of sand. If that happens, every single organ in our body will suffer, from our eyeballs to our kneecaps to our hair on the top of our head to our cardiovascular system, our immune system, our skeletal system, our nervous system. Every single cell and every single organ in the body will be affected because they rely on their nutrients from food. And the food that they rely on nutrients from primarily is fruit and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and pulses and beans and cows and chickens and eggs and oysters and all that sort of stuff. Not plastic cheese hamburgers or black cola drinks. So really important to have a good functioning stomach and a good functioning pancreas. Once the food is then in the small intestine, it is absorbed through the villi, as I previously mentioned. Once it goes into the villi, what happens is that it passes through the portal vein and through to the liver. Now, the liver has multiple roles in regards to digestion. Firstly, once the nutrients come to it, it turns it into its activated form. For example, folate, which is found in your green leafy vegetables, is pretty much useless to the body unless the liver converts it to its activated form, which is methyl-tetrahydrofolate. It does that with most of all of the other B vitamins. It stores our fat-soluble vitamins. It converts any essential amino acids that the body has excess of to the non-essential amino acids. It is essential for removing toxins from the body and cellular debris such as broken down immune cells or hormones or byproducts of cellular metabolism. Now, it also produces a substance called bile. Now, bile has a couple of roles. One of the roles is that the body puts all of its toxins into bile, or the liver, I should say, puts its toxins into bile to be eliminated through the digestive system. Now, bile acts as a laxative, so it helps people go to the toilet. So you might hear some people saying, if I don't have my morning coffee, I can't go to the toilet. It keeps me regular. The reason it does that is that the liver is unsure whether caffeine is a friend or a foe, so it eliminates it, and it eliminates it with the copious amounts of bile so the body can get rid of it quickly through the digestive tract. Hence why some people go to the toilet with a great urgency. Another function of bile is to break down fat. So think of a bowl of water and put some olive oil on the top of it. What If you swallowed that and it just sat in your stomach, you could feel quite nauseous and queasy, which can happen to some people if they eat fatty foods, whether it be hot chips or a fatty meal. This is because the fat is just sitting there, and the liver and its counterpart, the gallbladder, cannot produce or release bile effectively. So the role of the liver is to produce the bile, and it puts most of it into the small intestines, and it puts some of it into the gallbladder, which becomes very concentrated. Now, primarily we use the bile from the liver, but at times when it is needed, the super concentrated bile is put into the digestive tract and helps break that fat down a lot quicker and more effectively as well. So if the bile duct is blocked, or if the gallbladder is blocked, or the liver is tired and sluggish and you get elevated liver enzymes and it's not able to produce bile effectively, that then means that fat becomes malabsorbed, and the stool colour can be pale, white or light grey. And the reason for that is when the bile salts break down in the intestines, they actually give the brown colour to the stool. The liver is also involved in carbohydrate metabolism, and that is a process in which the liver helps regulate blood glucose levels by converting excess glucose into glycogen, which it stores for a later date when the body needs it. It can also produce, if we're low in carbohydrates or low in glucose, it can also convert, or make, I should say, glucose from non-carbohydrate sources such as protein, and that is a process called gluconeogenesis. It is also involved in protein metabolism, where it breaks down amino acids. It also synthesizes blood plasma proteins such as albumin and clotting factors, because it actually stores vitamins and minerals such as the fat-soluble A, D, E and K. It stores vitamin B12 and iron as well, so it releases them as the body needs it. Once the food has passed from the stomach and is in the small intestines, the digestive enzymes that I previously mentioned, such as amylase, protease and lipase, break down the fats, proteins and carbohydrates for absorption. So the carbohydrates are broken down to simple sugars such as maltose and sucrose, which then is further broken down to glucose, and they can be easily absorbed into the bloodstream and used as energy. The proteins are broken down to really small peptides. They're like chains or links that are about 8 links long, and once they're at that size, they then can be absorbed through the villi. The fats, with the help of the bile and the lipase from the pancreas, are broken down to fatty acids and glycerol, so they are then easily absorbed into the bloodstream. It's also the role of the small intestine to secrete certain hormones to help regulate the whole digestive process. For example, secretin is released in the small intestine, and that tells the pancreas to release bicarbonate, which neutralizes the stomach acid. It then also releases cholecystokinin, which is a mouthful of a hormone, and that hormone stimulates the pancreas to release the digestive enzymes and the gallbladder to contract to release bile. It also plays an important role in immune function, which is just a bit of a side issue here. It contains lymphoid tissue known as the Peyer's patches, and they can detect and respond to pathogens or antigens within the digestive tract and set up that immunological response. Through the action of peristalsis, which is the small muscle contractions that occur in the muscle wall of the small intestines, the food is slowly pushed along the small intestines. It's about 21, 22, 23 feet long, so it's fair length, and so those little muscle contractions all push it along down to the colon. Once the food passes into the colon, there's pretty much nothing left of nourishment. Well, let me rephrase that. If everything's working correctly, there should really be no food or nutrients left that passes into the colon. It should have been broken down effectively by the stomach, the pancreas, and absorbed through the small intestines. If food does pass into the small intestines, it will generally ferment and cause a lot of bloating, gas, abdominal pain, loose stools, diarrhea, etc. Now, what is the role of the colon when it comes to digestion? Well, firstly, once the food, or what we call the chyme, what's left, which is generally waste products, a whole heap of liquid, and fibres that are left over from the food. So once they're there in the colon, one of the first things the body does is it reabsorbs the water and electrolytes such as sodium and chloride from that remaining chyme or that digestive material. And that is very crucial in maintaining the body's fluid and electrolyte balance. So generally, you've most probably heard that if you have diarrhea or chronic diarrhea for 2 days or 48 hours, you can be in real bad trouble. In children, it's less than that, and you need to get to hospital so you can be rehydrated and electrolytes put back into the system. So the body does that normally unless there's a major infection or you've got severe digestive issues, whether it be ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. So once the water is reabsorbed from the stool, it begins to form up. So it becomes what we're used to seeing in the toilet bowl. And generally, ideally, what it should be is like a nice, ripe, firm banana. If it's a bit chocolate mousse-ish, if it's a bit loose, if it's a bit dry and pebbly or solid and loose, that then indicates that there is possibly an infection within the colon, too many bad guys and not enough good guys. It could be an intolerance to certain foods, whether it be dairy or gluten, or it could be because the food has then come into the colon undigested. Once in the colon, the fibres are fermented by our good bacteria, primarily known as the microbiome, and they generally ferment or they eat prebiotic fibres. Now, these prebiotic fibres are special fibres found in fruits and vegetables and certain legumes and nuts and seeds, etc., and they then are eaten or consumed by these bacteria, and they then poop. So the bacteria eat the fibre, and then what comes out the back end of them is a substance called short-chain fatty acids, and there's a couple of different types. There's butyrate, propionate, and acetyl, and they all have beneficial effects within the body. So butyrate is the main one that's associated with the digestive system, and what happens is that these short-chain fatty acids then feed the masses of beneficial bacteria within the gut. So if you take a probiotic, you generally get some Acidophilus and Bifidobacterium species, which are really beneficial and important for the body. But the Acidophilus species make up about 0.6% of all of the good bacteria within the gut, and there's about 2 kilo of them sitting within our colon of good guys. Now, you've got to feed them. So this is what these prebiotic fibres or these short-chain fatty acids do. They feed all of the beneficial bacteria, and they also nourish the colon, the colonocytes, the cells that make up the colon. About 80% of the nutrients that the colonocytes get come from what we eat. They only get about 20% of their nourishment from blood supply. So, and the only food they eat is fibre. Okay, so these short-chain fatty acids nourish and strengthen these cells. Now, the benefit of these gut bacteria having these short-chain fatty acids, it allows these bacteria to produce certain vitamins, such as vitamin K2, B vitamins such as B12, B6, B3. So very, very important, and they get absorbed back into the bloodstream. The colon is also home to around 70% of our immune system. Similar to the small intestine, it detects pathogens, and when that immune system is not as robust as it should be, that then can lead to increase in allergies, autoimmune disorders, recurring infections, etc. And obviously, one of the most important roles of the colon, I mean, they're all important roles of the colon, but it's to open its little valve and release the feces, and then that removes a bulk of waste products from our body. So, and ideally, this should be happening 1 to 3 times a day. If it's not, constipation. We will talk about that I think I've even done a podcast on constipation. I'll put a link to it in the bottom of this. So very, very important, and in that goes all of the toxins and broken down hormones and waste products and cholesterol the body wants to get rid of, and estrogens the body wants to get rid of. And so very, very important to have that colon functioning, because if you're eating 3 times a day and it's going every 3 days, that's a backlog of waste. That becomes a toxic environment. Nothing wants to live in that except harmful organisms. So hopefully that's given you a greater understanding of the importance of the organs that are involved in the whole digestive process and how important having a strong, robust digestive system is for our long-term health. Because if it's weak, every single cell in the body is going to suffer. You've got to remember that. What you put into your mouth, if you're a diesel car and you put unleaded petrol into your car, it's not going to work. The human body is no different. It needs what it was designed to eat. Fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and pulses and beans and cows and chickens and eggs and oysters and all of that sort of stuff. It wasn't designed to eat man-made plastic takeaway food. It wasn't designed to eat lots of sweets. It wasn't designed to eat white flour products, all those things that, oh yeah, they're nice. Yeah, oh yeah, I'll eat some of them. Our system becomes sluggish. We become sluggish. Dis-ease occurs. Anyway, hopefully that's given you some information. Until next time, this is Greg. Live life and laugh loud.